Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, People Before Profit, and why investing in your employees certainly does pay off. And once again, I am super excited for a fantastic guest to join us, who we'll be introducing in just a moment. But we've had over 120 people sign up to this webinar, our largest to date, an absolutely fantastic response. I think every business strives to grow its revenues and profits, but I think many businesses still haven't made the connection between supporting the engagement and well-being of its people and long-term business success. So for those that have joined straight away, and for everyone that will be here today, both listening live and on the recording, thanks so much for joining us. You are the people who are absolutely getting this topic and are already well on your way to creating and maintaining long-term success. I'm going to give it just a couple of minutes to let everyone jump on, particularly because of such a good sign up from the webinar point of view. Given this new world of hybrid working, I'm sure some of us will be hopping from one room to another, toilet to bedroom to bathroom, office to office. And like you'll see from Max's background point of view within the office, looking fantastic. My background, not so much working from home, but my shirt is making up for it. I am sure you'll all agree. So perhaps whilst we're all waiting on everyone to join us, you could all click on the chat function you'll see at the bottom of your screens. I'm just going to make sure that we have the gallery view on for everyone to see both of us. Hopefully that's there now. But if you click on the chat box, that will open up. If you could just introduce yourself and tell us where you come from, your organization, just to break the ice and give us a couple of minutes to let everyone come on, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I'll give you a little shout out when you pop up on my screen. The numbers, Max, are already skyrocketing up. So like I say, for those just joining us, click on your chat, open it up, just introduce yourself and say hello. Jade at Wigan College, hello, how are you? Mark, lovely to see you and thanks so much. Really looking forward to this session with Max, who I'll be introducing in just a second. Max, I'm going to introduce you properly in just a minute, but I keep saying this on every webinar, and I talk about kind of we should have some hold music, but what do you think your kind of hold or fight music might be? What would be that one song that Max Learmonth would come out to or be waiting on a webinar if it could be available for you?
I'm going to go really old school, Mike. I'm going to go Rocky Balboa, Eye of the Tiger. Like, absolutely have to.
I might have even written that one down if anybody can see my pen and paper there. What I thought Max might have said on that one, but there we go. Kieran Heath, consultant with Health Tech Startups, lovely to see you. And at FGR, good to see you and supporting your colleague Max. Paul Hamlin, lovely to see you again. So I'm looking forward to all the questions you're going to be sending forward to Max. Paul is a very huge advocate of Strive and what we do, so I'm sure he'll have lots to say in the conversation. Okay, look, it's 3 minutes past 3 and there's lots to get through. I want Max to do all of the talking today and get into the really juice of why people before profit really does matter and the outcomes can be quite fantastic in terms of success. So without further ado, welcome everybody. My name is Mike Brennan, co-founder and CEO of Strive. At Strive, we help teams to be heard, taking their small insights day by day, leading to real change that matters. We work with both private and public sector organizations, small and large, and our platform enables organizations to collect real-time insights from their people, which help organizations to achieve their key priorities. Most recently, we supported one of our customers, Jade at Wigan College, who's on with us, to listen to their staff in a more regular way. And by collecting real-time employee insights, they're able to reduce their stress-related absence rates by 7.5% and reduce their staff attrition rates by 3.7%. Absolutely fantastic. As part of our approach, we like to partner with the most forward-thinking organizations and leaders of people and talk about the most current and challenging topics, I believe, which relate to employee engagement, well-being, communication, and indeed experience. But enough about us. Today's topic is about why investing in your employees pays off. And as our guest commented on LinkedIn recently, amazing things happen when the right people work together. And so I hope you enjoy the next 40 to 50 minutes as we aim to provide you with a number of insights and practical tips, hopefully, to take away on the topics of employee engagement, employee well-being, and business outcomes, or indeed just validate what you're already doing. Hearing it from somebody else would be absolutely fantastic to make sure you're doing the right things in how we're working moving forwards. I have lots of questions to ask our fantastic guest speaker, Max, but we'd like you, our audience, to ask as many questions as possible. These conversations happen when you get to ask the key people the questions that you want to, and we will be as honest as we can in responding. So you will see there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom panel. If you click on that, this will allow you to ask any questions that you want to, and we'll do our best to get through as many as possible. If you do see a question that you want to be answered quicker, please click the little upvote button, which will take it to the top of my question list. The more upvotes it gets, the faster we will answer it. It sounds like a theme park ride, but it's not. It'll be a great challenge for us. So, people before profit and why investing in your employees pays off. What a topic. Investing in your employees has never been more important. As we work through the complexity of returning to work, post-pandemic more importantly, it's important that we don't forget what really matters, which is our people. It's been a challenging past year or two for everyone, including leadership. I'm sure Max and I will agree with that in a second, some of the questions that come through. Employees have had to adapt to drastic new ways of working and be able to keep focused throughout large organizational change. The key to making sure our people continue to feel supported and flourishing in their roles is by investing in them, their well-being, and their engagement. Taking care of your employees is essential to drive business outcomes, and research shows that companies with a happy and highly engaged workforce are 21% more profitable than companies with less engaged employees. So in this webinar, we're joined by the fantastic Max Learmonth, managing partner at FGR Group, who will be sharing his high growth mindset and people-first approach that has generated staggering results for the company recently. Max is a partner with 9 years experience building and developing high-performing finance, technology, and HR recruitment teams across the north of England and Scotland. Max and his team are well known for delivering outstanding levels of customer support whilst creating long-term, lasting relationships. Max has spent 7 years with the largest specialist finance and accounting listed recruitment business, where he progressed from being a UK top performer to a leader who has a reputation for scaling businesses. Max is a business leader who openly talks about people before profit and leads with that mindset when growing and scaling businesses. To let you all on a very little secret, Max is also a very dear friend of mine and is indeed going to be a groomsman at my wedding up and coming in April. So I'm hoping that this conversation is going to be as honest and as open as it can be between two businessmen and also two business friends. I want to really shine a light on the why it is so important to invest in your people. Max, welcome to our webinar and thank you for joining us. How are you?
Really good, thank you, man. I would just like to say that before we get into it, I am having a big part in organising your stag do, so please go easy on some of the questions you're going to be asking.
Oh, we better keep very vanilla then, haven't we? Now, Max, I've given you a really fancy introduction, as you deserve, and I actually learned quite a lot about you when reading your CV that I didn't know. But perhaps for our audience, you can introduce yourself to and FGR Group. Kind of, what is your role? What does the organisation do? Just to set the scene.
Yeah, of course. Well, look, hi everybody. Look, delighted to be here, and was very happy to participate when Mike asked me a few weeks ago. Look, some very kind words there, Mike. As Mike mentioned, I've been in recruitment for 9 years, going on 10. And throughout that, I've always had a passion for growing teams, finance, technology, HR, executive search. Started in Scotland, transitioned to being in Manchester, and I'm very fortunate that over the last 9 years, I've worked for two great businesses, but two very, very different businesses and their approach to their people. In 2019, I had a very random and fortuitous meeting with Michael was actually there. I don't know if he remembers, but with John Dyson, who's the founder of FGR. And at the time, an ex-colleague in Neil Owen, in a bar on a ski slope in Chamonix. And almost immediately after what started off as one drink at the bar with John and with Neil, I knew I had to join the business. I had never met a person like John who was so passionate about people, candidates, clients, colleagues, just a people-first person, people-first business leader. And Neil is and was very, very similar. And after that night in Chamonix, and subsequently a few meetings that then transpired, I made the decision to join FGR. So for those of you that don't know FGR, we are a recruitment business who specialize in finance, technology, HR, and executive search appointments. Like many other in the industry, our vision is to be the best business around. But the difference with us is that's the best, not by revenue, not by profit, not by headcount, but by our relationships, our reputation, our culture, and the quality of the people that work within our business. So in a nutshell, Mike, that's my very, very brief history.
No, brilliant. Thank you, Max, and well articulated in terms of the reasons why you changed that organization. And hopefully through this journey of the coming questions, we're going to hear a bit more about that from kind of not just sort of talking the talk, but actually walking the walk as you come into that organization as well, with that people first approach in mind. Okay, so what I want to do, Max, is make this session really, really informative, and hopefully, like I say, take our audience on a journey pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and hopefully into the future of what this looks like in terms of putting your people first, and how that can not only kind of help organizations with retention, with learning and development, with trust, with growth, but also in terms of profitability and business performance at the back end of that. Doing these things really at this front end really help that back end and those outcomes to happen. So let's just go back a step. How have you personally found the last 18 months working through the pandemic?
A roller coaster. If I'm being honest, recruitment already was a roller coaster, but it's been amplified even more so. But from a personal perspective, yeah, it's like everybody on this call and wider. It's had its highs. It's presented different things from a personal life perspective, but it's had its lows, and it's had a lot of challenges along the way. But I'm very fortunate that I've got an incredible wife who has probably kept me saner than I would have been throughout if she hadn't have been there. So Danielle's definitely kept me sane throughout the pandemic.
Good. So let's go back to before the start of the pandemic. It's quite a generic question. I think it sort of sets the scene for many of us. What were your views on the sector of recruitment, and indeed the wider sales and services-led sectors, regarding work-life balance at that time? So we're going back to sort of 2019, 20. What was your thoughts on that?
Oh, Mike, let's get controversial early, why don't we?
Let's get straight into it. Yeah.
Okay, so look, honestly, I can only speak from my personal experience. As I say, I've worked for two great businesses. I clearly know a lot of people within the industry that work for other businesses, large corporates, smaller to medium-sized enterprises. I'll apologise in advance if there are any recruiters on the call and they feel very differently to what I'm about to say. But I think regarding work-life balance, pre-pandemic, in the run-up to 2019 and 2020, I think it was the minority who tried to implement changes and did implement changes. Tried to implement a better offering, give their employees more, but the majority, it wasn't on the agenda. I don't personally, again, I don't really think it existed. As a sector or a profession, there was an image around recruitment and professional services sales that it's high performance, and there is truth to that. But to achieve that, the behaviours and the focus pre-pandemic was on presenteeism, KPI-driven environments, long hours, and quantity over quality. And there was a perception, certainly in the business that I was at previously and wider, that if you wanted to be successful, those were the things that got you there. And in terms of work-life balance, well, there couldn't really be one, because you wanted to be successful and you wanted to be that top performer. It wasn't until I met John and understand his ethos, until I joined FGR, that work-life balance even really became a thing for me. Because prior to I would say 6 months before the pandemic, which was when I joined FGR, it wasn't a thing. And anybody that had worked with me for a long time, if they are on this call, they're probably having a little laugh to say, oh, yeah, Max has definitely changed. But that's just the way the industry was.
And I think, obviously, in the industry and sector that you're within, that's where you're coming from and talking, but we've got lots of different individuals on this call coming from a range of different sectors, from manufacturing, from retail, from sales, from technology, small and large. I think we're all guilty of that. You know, some of the things you're saying there about kind of working those long hours equals success. I remember flying around the country, driving night after night, meeting after meeting after meeting to get to the next one. And actually, was I delivering a strategy for myself and my team to support my work-life balance? No. Were we listening to our employees in the way that we do now? Probably not. And I think everyone can sort of look at themselves and take that moment to say, what were we not doing at that time as opposed to what were we doing? And it's, you know, KPI driven, quantity over quality. That happens because speed and pressures that come through, and those long hours are effect of that, because we're not getting a chance to think about what we're doing. We just do. And that becomes quite dangerous, I'm sure, that we'll come on to soon.
Yeah, I think that people, you know, everybody on this call and wider, I'll probably refer to that a lot, which is pedaling really, really fast. Because everybody thought that if you work longer hours, and I'm not saying don't work longer hours clearly, but there was a perception that if you did more in the day, if you crammed more in your day, if you did that extra, you know, that extra call, extra email, and that was going to determine your success. It's not. It's for me now. It's like you can have the work-life balance, and you can focus on other things. You know, I want people to enjoy where they are, and I think just previously my experience. Yes, people were being successful, but the behaviors that were being driven it probably wasn't being done in the right way.
So you moved to FGR. The light was there. You had the calling from John and Neil. What were FGR doing from a point of view of supporting wellbeing, work-life balance, and some of those things that John mentioned at that point right at the start where you joined? What was the foundations?
Yeah, I think from that aspect, FGR were definitely, in my opinion, in the minority at that time. And there were a number of things that were already being offered. And just little things. It was like John used to run a fitness boot camp every morning for people that wanted to join in, where there was personal training sessions. When I started, I was running an FGR cardio club, where an extended period of a lunchtime to get out and do some exercise. It was there for people to join in if they wanted, and more often than not, we had lots of people there, which was awesome. There wasn't necessarily a policy around flexibility, but there was an unwritten rule that if you needed to be at home, if you needed to come in later or shoot off earlier, there was no questions asked. The smaller things around, you know, having your birthday off. A 5-year anniversary, the 5-year hangout, as we call it within FGR, that we still have, is once you've achieved the 5 years within the business, you can have an extended period of time paid off. By no means were we, and are we still today, a 10 out of 10. But I think we were definitely recruitment centric and sales centric. We were in that minority, and we were already, you know, part of, you know, what more can we do?
Yeah. And so there's the foundations. You've just joined, the world hits the pandemic. As a people leader, as a partner, what were your initial thoughts from the environment of FGR Group?
On when the pandemic hit, other than sheer panic, of when the announcement hit in March, I remember it vividly, being sat at home on the sofa, and the announcement from Boris that evening, and prior to that we'd had everybody in the office, and we had to offices rather, and we had to talk to people about, look, we're going to be working from home, and at first I think there was probably an attitude around, you know, this might just be for a couple of weeks, it'll be all right, guys, we'll be fine. But if I'm being honest, blind panic. And I think a million questions were running around in my own head, you know, straight away. What does it mean for the business? How long is it going to be for? What is the market going to do? I'm in a people-driven industry, and with businesses now having to work from home, what's going to happen with recruitment? You know, really selfishly, what's going to happen with that? Are we going to make a placement? We've got salaries to pay, we've got bills to pay, and that was just a number of things that certainly over the first couple of weeks that were definitely keeping me awake at night, I definitely started to develop more grey hairs then than I ever had previously. But once the dust started to settle, once we started to see what the landscape was going to look like and feel our way through and navigate our way through, I had a secondary thought, and that was one of opportunity. There was an opportunity to really hone our craft, become subject matter experts in our field, build better relationships internally and externally, and that we could also, because we weren't going to be running at 1,000,000 miles an hour, look at different aspects of the business that I probably got earlier on in my tenure with FGR, because it happened so quickly, the pandemic, in that it was 6 months, and you normally don't really do an assessment until you've been in sort of that 12-month mark. So it gave an opportunity to identify different things that we needed to change and we needed to do as a business if we were going to come out the other side.
And in particular, this is kind of, I suppose, where we start to turn the needle and really look at working with your people as part of this journey. Talk us through that journey, Max, of you working from home. What were some of the things that you started to put in place and really think about? If we're going to get this right, if we're going to become subject matter experts, if we're going to change the way this happens, what did you start to do as a team, as a leadership team?
Look, I think we really sat back. There was a lot of intense conversations, myself, John, Neil, Neves, and we started to think about what we could do for everybody within the business, how we could look after everyone from a wellbeing, from a mental health, from a business perspective. I think it will always be difficult to please everybody 100% of the time. And I know at times we could have done things better, but we got to remember that there wasn't a playbook for the pandemic. And I hate the term now, but it was unprecedented. So we just had to try to make, incremental marginal gains and really be inclusive in everything that we do. And there were a number of things that we sort of focused on, and I don't think it's different to any other organization, but I think first and foremost, the sheer hard work, we had to ensure that everybody had a job coming out the other side of this. Everybody had to double down and work harder than we ever had before, to make sure that that we still had a business at the end of it. We, in the early days, it was constant communication, every day, every week. It was probably too much at the start, but we were of the opinion of, let's just keep everybody informed. Let's just keep doing what we're, constant updates of where we were at, utilizing the technology that was available, regular Teams, regular Zooms, individually with people one-on-ones, not just with their managers, but we were in the trenches together. So it was individually and business-wide. A lot of businesses did this. We scheduled company all hands every single month to talk about business performance and what was going on, because we did have a couple of people on furlough, we did. So we wanted to keep everybody as engaged as possible. We kept some of the things that pre-pandemic that we were doing a lot. Sales and recruitment is incentive driven, and every single Friday we have a thing called Beers and Wins, or Beers and Prosecco, where we would talk about the week and what has gone on for each person individually that week. What is your one success and what have you done for somebody else? And everybody was on that. And it was just great from a camaraderie perspective to keep everybody super engaged. Yeah, we had all of the quizzes that everybody was doing and the coffee morning drop-ins. This is what I mean. It was almost communication overload for quite a while, but we felt more was better in that instance. We had a number of company-wide exercise and fitness challenges that people from the business organized, and we were all on that together, and there were pictures and videos, and we were raising money for charity, and again, just to keep motivation and spirit levels high. And try and keep some of those negative thoughts that can creep in. And we offered, again, this was John's idea, but a meditation and yoga session with an instructor every week over Teams. And that definitely was very beneficial for a lot of people. And I think the most important thing was that the leadership group had an open door policy, or virtual open door policy, where we could be contacted anytime, any day of the week, and I mean 7 days. If anybody was nervous or anybody just wanted to, have a cry, have a moan, just talk, they could. And the guys did that for us as well. I think we all definitely became agony aunts and uncles for one another as we went through that. I say we definitely could have done things better, but there wasn't a playbook for this. But I think with all the things that I've mentioned, we managed to navigate our way through, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, there's three things that have come out of previous webinars and what you're just saying there that keep resonating in people that are ultimately being successful within their business and with their retention of their people. And it's about the leadership team. It's starting from the top and having that kind of open door policy, or just that agreement that this is the way we're going to do things and this is the right way to do it. That communication, I don't think you can ever over communicate unless your people are telling you, but I think communication comes in a two-way conversation. I think it's important for your people to feel like they can communicate too, and that's a really important part. And just that open door policy at every level, everyone feeling in that mindset, they feel like there's a place to go to and talk to, I think so important at every stage of what you're doing. So obviously we're coming back to what I call as a normal world, or as normal as it can be. Talk us through
the new normal, Michael.
The new normal. You correct me, Max. Like in terms of the new normal, how are you currently structured in terms of work-life balance, supporting your people? What is the structure? Is it all home working? Is it in the office? Is it hybrid? Just talk us through that.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we have continued everything that I've just mentioned. Not one thing has stopped. We have continued that. But on top of that, like most, we've adopted a hybrid working model, and we asked the individual people within the businesses or the different offices what they wanted. This wasn't going to be dictated to by me, by John, Neil, Neves. This was going to be from everybody that works in the business. And because it's a sales environment, because it's a culture business of camaraderie, hybrid was what everybody wanted. It's 3 days in the office. They're set days every week, so we can all be around each other from a learning and development and culture and sales element to it. And it's 2 days from home. And around that, we have core business hours. But either side of that, those core business hours, there's total flexibility. And the reason we did that is so that to maintain the level of work-life balance, so that people can leave from the office earlier. They can come in, they can come in slightly later than what we were doing previously, as long as we were working to those core hours. And I know that you didn't want me to mention this, Mike, but we've recently invested in Stripe. We go live, I believe it's November. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And I see this as a key platform for us as a business. Because we are very vocal and we do have this open door policy. By having Stripe, anybody that feels they can't ask a question or they would prefer it was anonymous, and clearly with everything else that goes with Stripe, but we can give people that platform and allow them to use that in the way that they see fit, and that we can get better as a business on mental health and well-being, on work-life balance, on diversity and inclusion, on training and development, L&D. That's where we see Stripe as being a perfect platform for us as a business.
We're delighted to be working with you, Max, and it made it very easy for us to work with you guys because of all the things you're saying. We want to increase our communication regardless of where people are working. We want to understand and listen and have that open door policy and go above and beyond. Why are all those things so important to you? And you know, they're going to be a bit controversial because I know what they are, but they're all buzzwords, aren't they? Engagement, leadership and development. You know, the fluffy parts that people sometimes call and dismiss. Why are they so important to an organization, do you think?
But Michael, I think that pure and simple, because I think they help people within the business, you know, develop professionally and personally. They help a business grow, and I don't just mean scale in terms of revenues and gross margins, but they help businesses grow in so many different ways and get better. And by having a strategy around those things, by having a platform, things that sometimes get put on the agenda will actually get actioned, and they'll actually get developed. Whereas, you know, we're really good at talking, right? You and I'm really good at talking about lots of good stuff. But by really holding yourselves accountable to this stuff, it helps individuals grow personally, professionally, and it helps businesses grow and get better. And essentially, I see all of those things as we grow and develop as a business, just underpinning everything that we do.
And have you had any feedback from your employees and your people sort of through the journey, or now just sort of validating your approach to actually putting them first and saying, you know, we're going to look after our people and everything else comes secondary? Have you got any kind of evidence or support from that?
I think it gets spoken about. It gets spoken about a lot now that we are back in an office environment and we've been able to do company get-togethers. You know, one of those was our annual Oktoberfest, where we get the company together a couple of weeks ago. Everybody's very open about what we have done as a business, and they feel valued and they feel that they have a voice. And anybody that was in recruitment, sorry to go back to the recruitment industry, but as soon as the pandemic hit, a lot of businesses were very cutthroat in their approach. Anybody under a certain level of tenure was axed, and anybody that was under a certain performance level, regardless of tenure, was managed out, because people just wanted to protect their business, rightly so. But a lot of the people that work for us know that, and they know what went on as the pandemic hit, and they have a lot of friends in the industry, and I have a lot of friends in the industry that lost their jobs. So the fact that we've now navigated our way through with this people first approach, and we're not there yet. It's going to be incremental gains each week, each month, each quarter, each year. But because we've done that, I think that the individuals that are working for us now want to be here and want to be on that journey. And you know, they talk about it a lot.
I think that's such an important point. I have the wonderful job of getting to speak to lots of different organizations, but the key themes of success that we'll come on to in terms of the metrics of the organization, the business performance element around that is as a result of looking after their people. Everyone's got their eyes on the prize. We all know we've got our outcomes and our objectives to achieve. But where the success comes is by listening to your people. We found that organizations have been 5 times more likely to perform their best work and grow as a result of getting everybody on board. And it keeps coming back to your communication loop, Max, that continual flow, regardless of the pandemic. It's that journey through that's been really, really powerful. That as a success that we've seen on this element. I want to go back to just briefly and go forward again, but I noted down the kind of 3 core days, because I've had lots of conversations around, like, you know, hybrid, flexible working. Why 3 structured days in the office? Why was that important for you? I think you briefly touched on it, but I just wanted to pull that out.
This was from the individual offices. They felt that having 3 core days would help everybody being in the office together, and help from a learning and development perspective, so that there can be a lot of at-desk coaching, as we call it. There can be a lot of at-desk mentoring. There was time to, or there was an opportunity to spend time with individuals on our finance brand, be able to spend time with HR, and HR spend time with our technology brand. And by having those 3 set days, everybody's together. So you can go and talk to your buddy over a coffee in the kitchen. You can, you know, jump in a meeting room and have a conversation about something. You can go through different scenario based learnings. And from a performance perspective as well, it's more of a buzz. We are in a performance-driven environment as well as being people first. And by everybody being around each other together, you got to really celebrate that success when somebody did a deal, when somebody did their first deal, when somebody did a personal best, when somebody did broke their own record. It's like it's infectious, and you want to be around it. So, I think it was just really important that we had that. The open discussions that we had is 2 days enough to get all of that, and that everybody in the business was like, no, we think it should be 3 days. Again, this didn't come from the leadership team. This came from everybody that works within FGR.
You've just touched on a really important point, and something that we love to talk about within Strive is around celebration and shout outs and motivation. And I think regardless of the sector or the organization you're from, whether it's a high performing revenue growth sales driven environment, or whether it is an educational institution or a manufacturing element or a charity, all of our people want to feel loved, celebrated, and ultimately be told well done and be given feedback, honest feedback that can work. And I think there's a huge gap if we're all to review our organizations right now of how we structure the free things, the thank yous, the well dones, the celebrations, the collaboration and get together. And I think that's going to be an area that a lot of businesses are going to really need to think about the human. You've touched on the fact of having your birthday off. It's an important day for most that you kind of just let go. It's as you get older, but compared to when you're a young person, that was the special day of the year. So how do we make sure that every day is special without making it feel kind of too sweet in that journey? And how do you give people the understanding that as humans, we're going to have crap days. We're going to have days where we don't want to get up. We're going to have amazing days where we've hit those numbers, or we've done a brilliant job of manufacturing, we've supported. And I think that point that you've said there is going to really, really feed into a lot of people's strategies over time about what are we doing to celebrate our people. Max, does it cost a lot of money to do that? Like, do you spend a fortune on celebrating and shouting out the good wins?
Of course it doesn't. It doesn't cost anything to say well done to somebody.
No.
It might cost you a couple of quid if you want to take somebody for a drink, or you want to buy them a box of chocolates, or you want to buy them flowers to say well done on exceptional performance. But the majority of it's free. I think the one thing I didn't mention, Mike, is that as well as celebrating the successes, it's I think even more important than when you said somebody has a crap day, that they can go and talk to somebody. If they're working from home 5 days a week, in my opinion, and you have had a terrible day, and we've all had them during the pandemic, it's very, very different jumping on a Zoom or a Teams or calling somebody than it is saying, Mike, can we just go and have 5 and go and have a coffee? It's so different. So I think it's crucial, yes, to celebrate the successes, but also be able to chat to your friend at the water cooler to be like, I've had a tough day.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I jumped in there.
No, it's important. And how do you as a leader create that vulnerability? Because that's going to be a key question, like people on the call. That all sounds brilliant, but how do we make that happen in the environment that we're in now after really stressful times to then feel like we can come and speak to Max Learmonth in our environment?
I think you've just going back to what I mentioned earlier. It's that open door policy, and it works. It works both ways. There's certainly, there's probably some people on the call that work for FGR that I picked up the phone to during the pandemic when I've had a really bad day, just to shoot the breeze when I'm out walking the dog, and there's been times where I've had a challenging time or a challenging day when we've been in the office and I've gone for a beer, I've had a conversation. It's I suppose for us, and I'll come onto it shortly, and we're all on a journey together to build a business and build careers and all that good stuff. And I think because we are all in this together, everybody knows that we're really transparent in everything that we do, but that works both ways. It's okay to show vulnerability. It's absolutely okay. I think it's really important. People need to know that you're human.
Yeah.
Because it isn't sunshine and rainbows all the time, and it can't be. That's just not the way life is. Christ, if the last 18, 24 months haven't taught you that, where have you been?
Yes, I know, so true. And I think I've seen a lot more of this in organizations that we've supported is those that have been really, really successful are empowering employees on the front line per se and leadership teams to do the same. Because if both have that ability to do so and one doesn't expect the other not to or to do so, that's where the challenges come. So having the ability where leadership do open the door and approve the ability to start that conversation, that's really, really important. And on the flip side of that, you've also got employees helping us as leaders to speak up, to start the conversation and to flag when things aren't necessarily right for them or the environment. Max, I want to put you on the spot here, and I'm not going to ask for exact numbers, but we're talking about all these kind of great things, people led first and therefore people before profit. But that certainly does work in the environment. You invest in your people, they work for you, and great things happen. Can you share with us in a percentage form any successes as a result of, by investing in your people, we've actually delivered more or we've delivered X?
Yeah, of course. I won't go into pounds and pence, but yeah, percentages wise, we've had recently monthly and quarterly personal bests of 15% and 27%, respectively. We are looking like we are run rating to be 67% up on 2020. We are going to be up about 20% on a previous best from a business performance perspective. In its entirety. We've increased headcount by 17 heads across the group. We've launched our new offering in Edinburgh, which is clearly close to my heart because it's where I was for a long period of time. But the most pleasing thing for me has been the impact of all of our newer starters within the business. Probations being passed ahead of time, promotion targets being exceeded well in advance of typical expectations. But then the culture, which I've already alluded to, was created by John when he founded the business, is now even more diverse. It's even more inclusive, and it's got even better. So yeah, the group financial performance is great, and we're delighted with it. But the pleasing thing is the individuals existing individuals and new individuals that have over exceeded what they've ever done previously.
Fantastic, and huge congratulations on your success. And I know it is, related to the fact of investing in people versus other organizations you work from has seen huge increase in growth from there. So I've got two questions coming through, Max. I'm going to sort of interrupt a little bit. I'm going to start with Daniel Smith first of all, because I think it relates just to the point we've been talking about, sort of recreating celebrations. I'll read that to you, and then we'll come back to Paul's for a couple of points. He's put lots of bullet points there, so I'm going to pick out a couple, Paul, that we can relay to Max. So from Daniel, for remote companies, Max, how can we best recreate celebrations and lend an ear or even water cooler moments between employees? Perhaps I can follow you on with what we're doing, Max, but can you answer that question for us?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, everybody has to be fully bought into it and embrace it, because it's different to what the norm was previously. So whether that's using a Stripe platform or a Slack or the different CRM platforms that you use, everybody has to be really bought into it to have that culture of success. Creating the water cooler moments as such is having we were calling them during the pandemic drop-in mornings, where you would essentially tee up a virtual coffee with somebody on a different line of business, a different office, a different location, so you can have a chat with somebody that way. Clearly, it was all virtually, and if you are, remote working going forward, full-time remote, that is something that I would, say is very, very worthwhile doing. I'm not saying that is going to be the 100% best way to do it, but in my opinion, it would be everybody embracing how the messaging is going to be articulated is probably first and foremost, and almost creating like a buddy up system from a different team. Take yourself out your comfort zone, and getting to know other people, other individuals within your organization virtually. Would be that involves you taking yourself out your comfort zone and putting something in their diary. It might be a case they might get it in the morning and think, "Who's that?" But you just got to embrace it.
Absolutely. And I think you touched on, and I can add to this as well, Max, is you guys are rolling out Strive and its full entity over the month of November. And Daniel, we've worked with a lot of partners, and particularly FGR Group, to kind of get this right. Everyone's doing these wonderful things that Max is talking about here, but we said, how could we recreate this through a digital platform? So we have Strive, we have the ability to pulse questions out to get those insights back, regardless of where people are working from. Max has got global offices across Chicago, Edinburgh, Manchester, London. So having that ability to get a consistent view. And then what we class as those shout outs and celebrations is we let employees with their teams individually celebrate those moments and say well done to one another. And also have that ability to have the conversation with the leadership team. As Max said, that open door policy, having a platform, an app in which your employees can start a conversation with you away from the day-to-day sales channels, operational channels, is so important in this new world, because what we assume is we're always available on email or message or Slack can sometimes correlate with the operational work or the day-to-day tasks. So something like Strive or a digital platform where you create an environment in which people can connect with leadership in the organization would be my bit of advice. And there's lots out there, but we'd love to have a conversation with you about how that can work and show some of our case studies with that. And Max, I know you're particularly keen on kind of starting to roll that out over time about those water cooler moments and seeing how that kind of comes together with your people.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go on to Paul's question. Paul, as always, you give me lots of text trying to work through, so I'll do my best. But Paul's writing an article, Max, for his LinkedIn, in particular, the war for talent. He's wrote a couple of bullet points. I'm going to pull out a couple of them for you. And I think it's just a case of, what do you think about them? Do you agree with them? Are you able to challenge? But the one at the bottom I really liked was, be the first to make the change, lead, don't follow. What's your thoughts on that one?
I think that's absolutely spot on. The pandemic, as much as it's been really challenging and it's been hard for so many people, I'm not even going to go into that. It's created an opportunity to redefine what certain sectors, what certain industries, what certain professions look like. So yeah, absolutely. Be the first. Go and implement it. Change how you do things. Change the norm. Embrace the change. Don't be scared of it. But yeah, Paul, I absolutely agree with that statement. I think that's great.
What about change your performance reviews to people reviews?
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses were doing that previously, and I think they've certainly had to even more so, and it's been amplified during the pandemic. It's not just how much are you going to bill this month. It's more about, well, what do you want your career to look like? What is your personal development? What is your professional development? I do think that was already happening or starting to happen, but I agree with that. I don't like the term performance reviews, people reviews, catch-ups, development plans. But yeah, I agree with that terminology.
And we've already touched on don't throw money at it, so we won't go on to that point in one of them. But maybe I can take these, Max, and send them to you, and you can maybe sort of give Paul a one-liner on your thoughts and views after the webinar, if that's okay with you. And I can also give my view. Just on those points, though, in terms of hiring with a people first approach, you're a recruitment organization, and therefore you're hiring great talent all the time. Is there anything that you're looking for, starting to look more for, in terms of hiring the right, in brackets, people for a people-led approach?
Good question. I think it continuously evolves, and businesses go through different cycles in what they look for. At the early part of the pandemic, we were looking for individuals with experience that would help push us through the pandemic, and that was successful for us. As we've sort of certainly over the last 6 to 9 months, I think I've been quite vocal on LinkedIn in that we have wanted to hire people without recruitment experience, because people without recruitment experience don't have preconceptions, they don't have ideas on what things should look like, and we go in that journey with them. And how do you create that next level of leadership down the line? For me, it's always been, you, apart from the odd occasion, you grow it internally. So I think as businesses go through different cycles, there'll always be different types of individuals at different points that you will look to hire. each of the brands that I look after here, they're all at different stages of what they're looking for. But I suppose it's also just open your mind to thinking outside the box in terms of a hiring profile. Think about the person rather than the skill set that you're looking for.
I like that a lot. And Max, I've got another question that I'm really interested in sharing as well from anonymous attendee, but thank you very much. It says, hi both, great webinar. It all makes sense that looking after your people can improve a business. We're all on the same call for that reason. But how do we know that our engagement endeavors are working? For example, is it just a good sales year? That's the answer. Or are people actually enjoying their roles? How are you looking at success when it comes to a people-led approach? What are the kind of measures around that?
I think for me, for John, for Neil, for me, there's, we're business partners for everybody else. We are here to enable everybody that works for FGR, enable their career growth, enable their professional development, enable their personal development. So how do I measure success? Take the financial element to it, because people always in commission-driven industries want to earn lots of money. Take that out of it. For me, what does success look like? If when you sit down at the end of the year and you go through people's personal development plan and their personal development plan, and they've hit the objectives that they set out at the start of the year, and we have helped them do that, that's what success looks like. If you get that part right, in my opinion, the business will take care of itself.
Yeah, I think that's great points. And some of the things that we've been doing in organizations with Strive, particularly around kind of the question functionality, is some of what you would previously class as those more softer conversations, asking how people are feeling and reviewing that over time, asking if they feel part of the organization. Do they understand the values? Do they feel part of the culture? All of these sort of softer questions that fall into that people development role can give a tangible measure. And I think that's where businesses are starting to move, particularly the likes of you, Max, and others that we're working on, is wanting to be able to measure that success in kind of a business sense, where, yes, you've got your FD of your revenues and your sheets and your financial updates, but alongside that, being able to say, absolutely, and our people are happy. And I think, as long as both are lining up and going in the right direction, that's positive. But if we start to see a drop in the people aspect of engagement, well-being, culture, a lack of learning and development, we then know we can do something about that. And if we see a drop on the financial sides around that, obviously then I feel they're attributed together. And I think it's super, super important for organizations to start to track that in a more incremental way. And I know that previously, Max, you asked a lot more questions and a lot more engagement with your people, but a lot of organizations still rely on just the annual survey, and they even call it a pulse survey. And that's the only part of the listening that they do, other than, performance reviews. And so it's a 12 months is a very, very long time to get to the point to measure back on whether your people are feeling happy, engaged, and safe in their environment. So I think a lot of organizations need to start to measure their people's engagement in a more regular way than what they've previously been doing, in the same way that you have a financial meeting or a board meeting or an update. I think that's important. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Max, on that point.
No, I think I absolutely agree. We've all seen these surveys. We've all completed these surveys. Do they actually get listened to on an annual basis? There's somebody that's probably looking at them and thinking, oh, right, okay, we need to do that. By the time the business then moves into the next financial year, things have changed. Businesses have adapted, businesses have evolved, people have moved on. I think it's 12 months is definitely far too long in my opinion.
Yeah, it's got to be incremental change. And Max, what's in the chat, Linda Shardlow just asked a quick question. Do you think it's important to offer counselling support to your employees who may be struggling with their mental health due to working from home and issues with the pandemics? And do you have anything in place at the FGR group to support that currently?
Yeah, I think look, absolutely. That is paramount, to be able to tell people that you can talk to. That can't be me. That can't be leadership. That has to be external. We have, and I'm sure a lot of businesses have this, different packages that we that we offer people when they join our business, and there is always experts that you can talk to. That's been with both businesses that I've worked for. There are always people externally that you can talk to. That should be a basic human requirement for somebody if they are struggling from a mental health perspective.
Brilliant. Thank you, Linda. I hope that answers your question as well. And from me, I think it's two parts. I think the more that you can listen to your people, the more early intervention takes place in terms of people feel listened to right at the start about a small issue or concern. Like Max says, if that open door policy and that structure to speak up is in place, we can hopefully prevent some of these concerns. If people need a few hours off or a bit of flexibility or a bit of time, that can potentially help and support some of those more serious concerns that may have happened through the journey of lockdown, where people haven't felt listened to, haven't felt supported, or there's been external things that couldn't support the business. And then naturally you have your external support. You've got your face-to-face conversations when they can happen. You've got that digital support and the open door policy in between. And then you've got that external support as part of that journey to speak up. I'm conscious of time, Max. I want to make sure that everyone gets off. And I want to ask kind of a summary question for you, if I may, and it'll come in sort of maybe two parts. So first, what would you recommend to other organizations that are considering investing more in their people? We've got lots of people on the call that are already doing things like yourself, but what would you recommend to other organizations? What can they do?
Michael, I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all approach. I think first and foremost, go and speak to your people. Ask for their ideas. What do they need? What do they want? What do they expect? Don't be scared of doing it, which a lot of businesses and a lot of business leaders are, because they're scared of what the answer is going to be. Just go and speak to your people. Investment doesn't need to be monetary. There can be some really quick things that you can implement that would mean a hell of a lot to your people, and they're going to feel valued and they're going to feel looked after. They're going to want to go the extra mile for you as well. Speak to other business leaders. See what they are doing. I certainly did that a lot during the pandemic. I'm fortunate that, you know, a high number of my clients that I've worked with for many, many years are now friends. And I was constantly picking their brain around what they were doing during the pandemic. With the return to work, I was asking them what they were doing. So go and speak to other people within your industry and ask what they are doing. I think for me, the big thing is, like, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Take yourself out your comfort zone and think about how you would like to be motivated and think about how you would like to be treated. Somebody has always said or somebody that in the start of my career always said to me, treat people the way you would like to be treated and think about how you would like your mum to be treated. And that's something that I always think about when it comes to things like this.
Great answer. And you know, just in summary, why do you believe that investing so much in your people supports an increase in business performance?
I would have thought that was quite obvious. But
I'm asking you.
If you invest in your people, if you listen, you trust everybody that works for you, you implement change where you can, you communicate effectively, and you genuinely believe that you can help your people feel supported, they feel listened to, they care about the business, they care about the adventure that they are on, they invest more time, effort, and energy than they would anywhere else. So if you invest in your people and you look after all of those elements that I've just mentioned, for me, then of course you're going to get an upsize in performance, because people want to work for your organization. They feel good coming into work. They don't have that dread when the alarm clock goes off in the morning. They're coming to work with purpose because they are backed by a business and backed by leaders that care about them.
Max, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being so honest on your journey. I know a lot of the organizations across sectors will have really enjoyed listening to your vulnerability and your honesty. I think there is always more that everyone can do, even yourselves, even us at Stripe who talk all about this every single day. I think it's so important that we just make sure that we invest in our people. And I couldn't have said it better myself at the end, where, you know, that purpose element, if people want to work for a business or an organization is nothing without its people or individuals or groups and teams coming together to support the growth. And the more that you invest in that area in terms of time and effort, And the more you can support that through incremental change and adapting that environment to support as many of your people as possible, the more successful you're going to become. And the proof's in the pudding, as Max has said today, starting from the top of working with the leadership teams and making sure that that is a core part of a listening strategy, a wellbeing strategy, engagement strategy, people first, right in the middle. Making sure the communication channels are there, particularly if you're working kind of on a remote, hybrid and flexible model, that you have technology in place, you have open door policies, you have times to still speak with your individuals, and make sure that the leadership team can still get a gauge with their people, particularly larger organizations where there's middle management in between. We need to support those middle managers and again, those staff on the front lines. But ultimately, celebrate, shout out, support your staff, and remind them of why it's so important that you want them to work in your organization. For everyone on the call, I highly recommend that you take the time, if you are hiring an individual or a group of individuals, that you speak to the FGR group, and Max, he'll put you in touch with any of his teams in the UK and around the world. I highly recommend them. We have used them and they're absolutely fantastic. Of course, I would do that. The key thing for me is that everything that Max talks about internally comes on the external point of view, and the people that he's trying to find for you as an organization are the ones that you want in the organization to hit the ground running. So I really do recommend reaching out to Max on LinkedIn, and we'll share those details in the webinar as well. From Strive's point of view, some of the questions that have come through in terms of listening to your staff in a more regular way, or being able to ask your questions out to your staff and get those insights, being able to celebrate and shout out and have those magic moments, and understand on the flip side of that, any negative concerns or crap days that staff have. You want to capture the voice. Strive can support organizations, because when people are heard, teams are happy. Max, thank you so much for your time. It was great to see you. Looking forward to seeing you soon for a drink or two. On behalf of all of the audience, thank you very, very much for attending. We had a huge turnout today. I hope you found that useful. We're always wanting feedback for our next conversations. And if you have any questions that you want to put to Max, please do send them to me, and we'll get those answers back to you as soon as we can. Max, thank you so much, sir, and we'll see you all soon.
Cheers, Michael. Thanks, everybody, for attending. It's been great.
Thanks, Max. See you soon.